Yeah, if I said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I'm sorry. Sorry, people. Okay. Don't buy the nonsense. Um, Good news is good news. Bad news is bad news. Make sense? No. Not in the narrative, nonsensical world that we live in. We live in a world where, hey, you can get a job. It's bad. Your wages are going up. Bad. What? Today, I saw the ADP jobs number, and again, it kind of shows you these wizards are smart on these programs, economists, whatever it may be. It just shows you how little they know. It just, I thought about this for a sec. Yeah, good sub reference here. Beverly Hills Cop, the original. They're making another one right now, by the way. There is another Beverly Hills Cop coming out. But anyway, the original one. If you remember when Axel Foley's at the police station, and I think he got arrested again, and he's telling Rosewood and Taggart and how he snuck into Victor Medlin's warehouse, and he found coffee grounds all over the place. And the cop's like, "What does that mean?" Oh, they didn't know what it meant, and he kind of laughed. He says, "You guys get your badge and your gun, but you don't know nothing about anything. What do they teach you here?" Well, basically, because they use coffee grounds to hide the smell of the drugs that would be being smuggled into the country. Throws off the scent of the dogs. Anyway, that's what I think about when I see many of these people on TV. They know nothing about nothing. Let me tell you why this is a great jobs report and why this jobs report is actually deflationary. This jobs report is deflationary. You take a look at the change by establishment size. Okay. Small businesses added 195,000 workers. Medium establishments added 191,000 workers. Large establishments lost. That's 500 plus employees lost 151,000 jobs. Why is that good news? Well, let me make sense of this. It was a month and a half, 2 months ago. I told a story here in the podcast. I was at a restaurant Saturday night. It was in North Carolina. I was taking my son to visit a college and go into this restaurant, and we're told there's a 45-minute wait. 45-minute wait. And in the front of the restaurant, remember, I was packed. Every table was filled. But then if you took a look around the restaurant, the sides of the restaurant were empty. They weren't seating about half of the entire restaurant. Now, the reason why they weren't seating half of the entire restaurant is what? They didn't have enough staff. They didn't have enough people. So they had to cut back. Now, why is this jobs report deflationary? Well, you have to raise the price of what you're selling in order to pay the rent and keep the lights on if you're only operating at half a restaurant. I mean, the landlord is still saying, "Hey, you know what? You gotta still pay for the square footage." So how is it beneficial for the economy as a whole when small businesses can't operate at full capacity? They can't make as much money when they're understaffed. And for whatever reason it may be, the powers that be just can't seem to get their arms around that. But anyway, again, the jobs report was great. I want small businesses to succeed. Again, I have my selfish reasons. I want large business. I want everybody to do well. But again, the bulk of my clientele from all over the country, small business owners, they are. And they've had a real difficult time, and it's starting to turn for them. It's starting to turn for them, and I think that's outstanding. We'll see tomorrow, however it plays out in the Labor Department report. But this was coming from the ADP report. And we had the JOLTS report the day before. Still a lot of job openings in the United States. But again, is it so bad? Is it so bad that businesses that were overzealous, if you will, in their hiring. I know we spoke about this yesterday on the podcast. They have to lay people off, and those people can find a job. Again, I keep going to the Sade lyrics about feeling no pain and not being able to find a job for 2 years. That's not the case in America today. Not to mention the fact, I'm sorry, it's Federal Reserve fools. They don't know a damn thing. Like we keep talking about periods of time. Well, we don't want what happened during the 1970s. It's a different friggin' world than the 1970s. A very different world. Yeah, we've got a Russia around that's actually more of a pain in the ass now than the Soviet Union was back then. But you think about that. Think about the Soviet Union and all the satellite countries, how big that was and how weak that entire area was as far as their economy was concerned. China was inflation period during the 1970s. China was a poverty-stricken hellhole, for crying out loud. You got a different planet. You can't make these comparisons, and it hurts my head to some degree. Anyway, moving on. An hour after President Putin in Russia declared there would be a 36-hour ceasefire for all Russian forces along the line of contact in observation of Orthodox Christmas. Zelensky's office has rejected that, calling it a hypocrisy and demanding that all Russian troops must leave occupied territory immediately. This is from Zelensky's advisor. Must leave the occupied territories, only then will it have a temporary truce. Keep hypocrisy to yourself. First, Ukraine doesn't attack foreign territory and doesn't kill civilians as RF, Russian Federation, does. Ukraine destroys only members of the occupation army on its territory. Second, Russian Federation must leave the occupied territories. Only then will it have a temporary truce. Keep hypocrisy to yourself. Again, I don't know. I'm still trying to get my arms around. I understand what they're saying here. I do. And I understand the Ukrainian point of view. Maybe if it was a ceasefire coupled with some sort of actual discussion on how you go about ending this godforsaken war. It's just certain things are just hard to get your arms around. It really is. Is that, people want to say how I see this thing playing out. Death, destruction, misery, moving forward. Unless something happens sooner rather than later and they could come to some sort of, maybe by the middle of this year, they'll just get tired. They'll just get tired and then we'll say, all right, enough's enough. I don't know. Again, my response back would be, okay, you want a truce? Okay. What's the discussion here? We've got to move forward from here. You've got to move. He talks about moving people out, but they've got to come up with something. They really do. Anyway, again, I know easier said than done. And also in the same breath, Zelensky's asking for American tanks. Well, he needs tanks. I guess France is sending over some tanks, and now he's requesting them from the United States. Again, I would try to avoid any sort of escalation. I really would. Mention that this week on the show. Again, the Russian military is just utterly incompetent. It's just ridiculous. The way that the barracks and having the ammo being stored next to the soldiers. I mean, it was just utter stupidity. And your soldiers are on cell phones giving up their positions. I'm like, I get it that you're conscripting all these people within your country, but you maybe want to train them a little bit because, anyway, let's go to Animal House. Talked about Animal House yesterday. House of Representatives, as it stands, I'll timestamp it. What are we about? 1:30 Eastern Time afternoon. The House went for seventh vote and again rejected. And from what I'm hearing, as Kevin McCarthy has basically caved on everything. Well, it's a cave. He's given to the demands of some of these people that weren't voting for him. I think he picked up maybe 10 votes, but it's not enough. It's not enough. And you've got people now in the House, members of the House, saying that they'll resign, Republicans, rather than vote for him. What's we talked about this yesterday on the program. I don't have any problem with the fact that this hasn't happened in 100 years. Well, maybe it should have, like I said yesterday. I'm not happy with the Republican Party. I mentioned this before. I left the Republican Party, 15 years ago, more, almost 20, just because they're not honest. They just say they're going to do things and they don't follow through on them. I think what the teachable moment is people just the type of wealth. Right? This is more than I deserve this job. Hold on a second here. Okay, you're a public servant, and they make their six-figure salary. But when you are the Speaker of the House, you got real power. As I said, you people talk about the masters of the universe with the Bezos and the Musks of the world and so on and so forth. No. They don't have trillions of dollars at their disposal, which, again, think about it. Think about our nation's budget. Think about what they're capable of spending. Speaker of the House, third in line to the presidency. You're running the show, and take a look at these speakers of the past. I don't know what John Boehner's portfolio looks like. He doesn't seem to me like someone that was trying to really enhance his position in life based upon being Speaker in the House. And even though I didn't agree with him on anything, I wish he was tougher on some things. But why they don't want you to do it, step aside. Difference is make. You still got your job. Oh, hey, you won't have as much power. You still have your job. I'm sure you can cut a deal with whoever you're going to put in there. Make sure you get some great, committee appointment. Again, I don't know. It throws me off a little bit. This thing. I have to have this power. Anyway, I'm going to touch on this, and I will get to this. I don't know if I'll get it to it this weekend on the radio show, but I will over the next couple of weeks spend a little bit more time on it. There was a list that came out ranking the best and worst hedge funds of 2022. And I looked at the list, and I got a kick out of it. I did. I've tried to explain to people how many of these hedge funds actually put out their performance, and many of them, their performance. I didn't go through each and every one of these, but let me just tell you how this has always worked. Their performance is more often than not a fugazi. Not all, but many of them, yes. Now, what do I mean by a fugazi? Why is it fake? How is it a fake? Well, it's very easy if these hedge funds, because they can do whatever they want. So they can pick up certain assets, stocks, positions, real estate that are not very liquid, and they can mark them any way they want to mark them. They can. They can say to themselves, well, they take a major position in some over-the-counter stock that doesn't trade much, drive the price up. They own it. The stock's up, and part of their performance. But can they sell it? Because you got to find a buyer. And again, they charge pretty hefty fees for this. Again, you've got to be very, very careful when it comes to investing in these things. I do know some excellent hedge fund managers, and in some cases we deal with them for some of our uber wealthy clients. But for most, just be afraid, people. Not to mention, like the Hotel California, you can check in anytime you want, but you can never leave. That's the case in many of these things. You want your money out? Read the fine print. Read the fine print. And again, if things are not going that well, they make it even harder to get your money out. Quick bit on real estate. Manhattan apartment sales fell by 29% in the fourth quarter. Whoo. Yeah, 29%. Rents are coming down. We're actually seeing Fort Lauderdale, a bit of cracks in their market. That's in Florida. Again, it's things are changing. It's starting to crack. I told you, it doesn't happen, boom, overnight, but it will. Sellers are being, more incentives in more places in regards to trying to move pieces of property. Yeah, it's a function of higher rates. It's just natural, people. It's kind of like sky is blue, water is wet. Outside of people that are, cash buyers, and even the highest end market is coming down. The high end market is coming down. Again, one of the reasons why the high end market had done really, really well, you take a look at some of these penthouses, sky rises in New York City, California, some of these pieces of real estate, was because a lot of people that basically have a spigot of money, people that are involved in commodities, oil and gas and other things, they weren't getting any return of that money at the bank. That's a different story now. As risk-free investments, take a look at treasuries, have gone up as far as what they're paying. It becomes a hell of a lot more attractive. And when you have a spigot of money, again, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to stick it in the bank and get zero? Say, hey, what the hell? I'll buy myself a $500 million condo in Manhattan. Why not? What the hell? Again, that's the difference now when you're having some of these interest rates higher. It diverts where money is going. And the same thing holds true with the stock market. This idea, can't fight the Fed. It's the old REO Speedwagon song. I just can't fight this feeling anymore. I just can't fight the Fed anymore. I don't fight the Fed. Okay? The idea that markets can't do well, stocks can't do well in a higher interest rate environment is patently absurd. In the 1990s, you could have bought a 10-year treasury and you're getting 6% plus. Yeah, and they had a dot-com run-up at that point in time. No. There's going to be a lot of washout in cryptos, NFTs, one of the big NFT things out. I think they sold themselves to the company that bought Topps baseball. Again, it was all a fugazi, but we knew that. Anyway, quickly on this is interesting. China appointed this new ambassador to the United States. His name is Qin Gang. And he's a kinder, gentler side of China and Beijing. Past 2 days, the new Chinese foreign minister has grabbed the attention of the Western press by tweeting out that he's deeply impressed by the American people, while vowing to push forward U.S.-China relations in a positive way. I want to pay sincere thanks to the people of the United States for the strong support and assistance given to me and the Chinese embassy during the period. I've been deeply impressed by so many hardworking, friendly, and talented American people that I met. Saying he made many friends across the United States, he pledged to support the growth of China-U.S. relations in his capacity as China's top diplomat. Interesting. He also, talked about his, he was at an NBA game with the Washington Wizards and a special relationship because they were the first team to play in China when everything opened up. China's got to change its tune, just like we told you they were going to have to. Again, didn't work. Okay? Xi Jinping, they constantly talk about as this, just, he's their leader. He's a moron. I said it before. He's an absolute moron. China was growing, tech sector, doing a lot of things the right way. Obviously, intellectual property theft, they cheat. We know that. But they decided to blow that up. And now they're coming to the realization, boy, we screwed up bad. And zero COVID, boy, you screwed up bad. A few stories I was reading today. People, contacts in China says everybody's got COVID. Everybody has COVID. And this is coming from someone, and you guys been listening to this program. Everybody's been listening. They've been talking about COVID from the get-go, and we were spot on in regards to our assessment. The powers that be were not, and we were highly critical of the Trump administration for what they did, and listening to Fauci and Birx. Respiratory disease, saying you can run, but you can't hide. And again, from the program, I lost my father to COVID. I knew when this thing started coming out. I saw the numbers. I saw what was going on in Italy at the time and what it was doing. I said it's a situation where hopefully they're going to come up with treatment. We should be doing everything and anything we can to protect people at risk, but we should try to build up herd immunity here in the United States. Kids, younger people, healthy people are not high at risk, and they're better off actually getting it. That was the best course. And China, praised by the lab. Zero COVID policy, lockdowns. We have no immunity now. And I can't even imagine. What's going on there. They don't have our health care system. They don't. And I even, I saw that there was a rare, situations where younger people, even healthy people, athletes could die of COVID. And I'm kind of a, memento mori guy. It's the old Stoic thing. You remember you're going to die. And I got to resign myself, from the beginning, saying I'm going to get it. I got a real good chance that I'm going to be okay, but I might not. And I'm not going to lock myself in my house, and I'm not going to do it because it's not going to matter, because it's not going anywhere. It's going to be with us. And now they've got the new variant that's out there that's supposedly a hell of a lot more transmissible. They don't know how virulent it is. They're saying it's not nearly as bad, but if that's ripping through China right now, oh boy, it's going to be pretty bad, to say the least. It's funny. I mentioned this before. I have in my house. My father-in-law died a few years ago before COVID, but my in-laws have lived with me for a long time, and my mother-in-law's here, and she's mid-80s. And I think I've gotten COVID maybe 2, maybe 3 times. My kids have gotten it a couple times. Everybody in our house. And I got vaccinated. To follow the rules from the beginning. My mother-in-law still hasn't gotten it. Same house. We weren't wearing masks or anything like that. It's the oddest thing in the entire world. Again, 85 years old. Who knows? Maybe she did get it. Maybe it just didn't bother her. I don't know. You know what? I'm going to do this. We're going to end on this today. I've had back and forth with people in our listening audience in regards to Governor Ron DeSantis, and a lot of people calling on him to run for the presidency in 2024. And I've said here on the program, don't do it. You're watching Animal House right now. You're watching what's transpiring, watching what's taking place in D.C. Do you really want to do that? You really want to go there? No way. In fact, if I ever got elected to Congress, I'd be like Tom Coburn. I'd be home every week. Get me the hell out of there. Get me out of there. I don't want to be there. Ron DeSantis in his second term inaugural address. It's often said that our federalist constitutional system, with 50 states able to pursue their unique policies, represents a laboratory of democracy. Again, 10th Amendment, we talk about this all the time. Well, these last few years have witnessed a great test of governing philosophies, as many jurisdictions pursed a much different path than we have pursued here in the state of Florida. The policies pursued by these states have sparked a mass exodus of productive Americans from these jurisdictions, with Florida serving as the most desired destination, a promised land of sanity. Many of these cities and states have embraced faddish ideology at the expense of enduring principles. They have harmed public safety by coddling criminals and attacking law enforcement. They have imposed unreasonable burdens on taxpayers to finance unfathomable levels of public spending. They have harmed education by subordinating the interests of students and parents to partisan interest groups. They have imposed medical authoritarianism in the guise of pandemic mandates and restrictions that lack a scientific basis. This bizarre but prevalent ideology that permeates these policy measures purports to act in the name of justice for the marginalized, but it frowns upon American institutions. It rejects merit and achievement, and it advocates identity essentialism. We reject this woke ideology. We seek normalcy, not philosophical lunacy. We will not allow reality, facts, and truth to become optional. We will never surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where the woke goes to die. Now Florida's success has been made more difficult by the floundering federal establishment in Washington, D.C. Federal government has gone on an inflationary spending binge that has left our nation weaker and our citizens poorer. It has enacted pandemic restrictions and mandates based more on ideology and politics than on sound science, and this has eroded freedom and stunted commerce. It has recklessly facilitated open borders, making a mockery of the rule of law, allowing massive amounts of narcotics to infest our states, importing criminal aliens, greenlighting the flow of millions of illegal aliens into our country, burdening communities and taxpayers across the land. It has imposed an energy policy that has crippled our nation's domestic production, causing energy to cost more for our citizens and eroding our nation's energy security, and in the process, our national security. It wields its authority through a sprawling, unaccountable, and out-of-touch bureaucracy that does not act on behalf of us, but instead looms over us and imposes its will upon us. The results of this have been predictably dismal. This has caused many to be pessimistic, about the country's future. Some say that failure is inevitable. Florida is proof positive that we, the people, are not destined for failure. Decline is a choice. Success is attainable. And freedom is worth fighting for. For crying out loud, he should put that on a damn t-shirt. I'd buy it today. Watchdog on WallStreet.com, watchdogonwallstreet.com. We'll see you.